So the first two episodes of Daredevil Born Again were released, and so far, judging off those first two episodes, my video is aging like milk. Now I do have a few complaints with the series so far. For example, I'm not a fan of the Kingpin's actions and choices in the series. I just don't think it aligns with the Kingpin we've established, and his choices just feel out of character. But then again, my complaint is just based off the first two episodes of a 9-episode series. So my complaint can be redundant when the following episodes come out and justify the decisions made on screen. So far, I enjoyed the first two episodes, and with Daredevil being my favorite superhero, I just hope the series gets better from here. But that being said, there are a decent amount of people who are disliking, or to use a better word, have a problem with Daredevil Born Again. And spoiler alert, but you clicked on the video, so you already know. But the biggest complaint I've seen with the series is surrounding the death of Foggy and the CGI. The CGI is kind of a dumb point to dislike a whole series for because the bad CGI was shown for like 4 scenes. But anyways, the biggest complaint I've seen the most was about Foggy's death. Matt Murdock's best friend, his most trusted ally, a guy that we watched for 3 seasons, gets clapped in the first 15 minutes. And so many people are infuriated by this decision. And yeah, some people are just mad because their favorite character just died. But I'm talking about the people who think it's bad writing or like a bad decision. So what I'm going to do today is break down the reasons why killing good old Foggy Nelson was a horrible decision. Additionally, I'm going to go over the reasons why he died and show some of like the reasons for storytelling and why they went down that route. Starting with the reasons why it's a bad decision, and one of the most popular reasons to dislike the decision is because Foggy never died in the comics. Even though this is a popular statement, Foggy has died 3 times in the comics, kind of. The most recent death of Foggy Nelson was during the 2022 Daredevil run by Chip Zdarsky. Foggy was killed by the Hand, and Daredevil literally went to Hal to go get Foggy back. And that is Foggy's first legitimate death. But Homeboy has faked his death twice. He first faked his death in 1998 in issue 82 of Daredevil. And then he did it in the Charles Soule run of Daredevil. Now during the Soule run, Daredevil himself was the one who faked Foggy's death. But when he first faked it, Matt had no idea. And all of Foggy's friends mourned him as if he actually did die. Now back to the show. People are upset that the show didn't follow the source material, being the comics, when making a decision. Because in reality, Foggy has only legitimately died once in the comics, and it wasn't even for that long. Matt legit went to the afterlife to go get his boy. So for the show to make a big divergence from the comics could be upsetting to some people. Like if your favorite book had a TV show or movie adaptation, and the adaptation decides to take liberties and do things that were never done in the book, that can ruin the adaptation to some people. And that's what we're seeing here. I've seen people compare Foggy's death to keeping Batman's parents alive. Because the majority of the Batman iterations, his parents die, and this is a core aspect of the Batman's character. And for Daredevil, Foggy is a core aspect of his character. Now, I do get the people who are mad that Foggy died because it never happened in the comics. I do get it. But to counter this point, I would say that the majority of comic book movies make changes from the source materials and their adaptations. For example, Ego wasn't Star-Lord's dad, and Miss Marvel's powers weren't like a Green Lantern type. And there are way more examples, small ones and big ones. And yeah, Foggy's death is a big change, but we are also only 2 episodes in the series. I don't want to say that they could justify Foggy's death, but they can allow it to make sense in the story they're telling in the show. So yeah, right now, Foggy getting killed could be seen as a stupid decision, but just let the show finish, and then we'll know if the decision was truly horrible. Now the second biggest complaint I've seen is the timing of the death. Basically saying they don't like how Foggy got one-tapped in the first 15 minutes in the first episode. Let's just put this into perspective. All throughout the media tour for this show, the showrunners, actors, and other important people who worked on the show were saying how great it was to have the original cast back for the new show. And for us fans, we were excited to see the original characters back on our screen. So all the fans had this built-up excitement to see our new characters. And then we actually started watching one of the reasons we got excited for the show just get killed in the first 15 minutes. And now, when you're told something throughout the long build-up for the show, and it just goes in the first 15 minutes, it feels like you're kind of being lied to. Even though we were hearing theories and we've been seeing the signs that Foggy was gonna die, it didn't make it any better. I've also seen people saying that it wasn't an effective death scene. As like I said before, there were signs that showing that Foggy was gonna die. And also in the dialogue before he died, Foggy was basically telling the audience, "Hey guys, I ain't gonna make it." I've seen a lot of people say that the death would have been more effective if it happened later in the season. And this statement could be true for some people, but I think that this death was super effective, and I'm confident to say that most people who watched it thought this. From the dialogue in the beginning, even though it was confirmed that Foggy was gonna die, the gang's banter made it even more sad, and then Darrow Ann Wolf and Charlie Cox's great acting made this scene real emotional. And in my opinion, this scene was even more effective at being sad. And yes, maybe the statement is true that would have been better later in the series, but there's no way of telling that. And the scene we got was effective for most people, but the previous statement of being lied to might be true, which brings us to our next point. Now, I know this might be kind of cheating because it's part of the last point, but this in my opinion is the strongest reason why to disagree with the death of Foggy. It's because the cast, the crew, they all lied. Now I think most people are well aware that the show had a rehole. Marvel had the original plan for the show, but after the writer's strike, they looked at the show and said, yeah, this isn't good. And so they rehauled the show. They hired a new showrunner, got new directors, and of course, they got the original cast back. Leading up to the release, many members of the cast and crew were explaining Daredevil Born Again as a fourth season to the original Netflix show.
It's like a fourth season of the original show. It's like four. I mean, we're calling it Daredevil Born Again, and it's the first season of that, but it's the same tone, same guys, same misery, same same excitement, same emotions. Dark. It's like, and more, you know.
Yeah, it's dark, for sure.
Yeah.
So going to the show, we were all expecting for the show to continue the story of Matt, Foggy, and Karen. But then in the first episode, Foggy gets clapped and Karen is written off to California. Alright, so let's analyze this. We 100% know that the pilot for Born Again was a reshoot to the one we have now. And we know that Marvel brought back Karen and Foggy because the fans basically bullied them into bringing them back. And then after the first episode, they're gone. It's like the show is reverting back to what it was. And we got our Karen and Foggy replacement. And yes, some people do think it feels like an entirely different show without Foggy and Karen. And that doesn't feel like a fourth season. So yeah, it felt like false advertisement. And I completely get this compliment. And I completely get this complaint. Now once again, the show isn't over, so there's a chance that Karen couldn't come back or that Foggy faked his own death like he did in the comics. But let's be real, he's probably dead. But if the cast and crew did tell a lie to sell their show, it wouldn't affect my score personally, you know, if the show is still good, but it will put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Now, on to the reasons why Foggy should have died in the series. That sounds really mean. Which admittedly is a shorter list than the reasons why he shouldn't, but I would attribute this to, you know, the show not being done yet. Starting with, because it never has happened. Now I know this was in the reasons why it shouldn't have happened, but just hear me out here. During an interview with the cast and crew, when they were asked about Foggy's death, and what they were saying is that they had to set the show's tone right off the bat, and start with something emotional and shocking.
All right, Brad.
Spoilers.
Spoilers for Daredevil Born Again starting right now. Dude, this first scene?
I'm sorry.
What? I was sat forward, like, in disbelief that you guys killed Foggy. Talk to me first. Where'd that decision come from?
It's not something that we took lightly. You know, it led to many impassioned debates. I'll put it to you that way.
I bet.
Many sleepless nights. It's honestly nobody wanted to do it, and including me. And but you know, we all realized it needed to happen. The story needed it to happen. You know, Matt he had to struggle with his own internal demons in a way that that only an event like that could could bring about. And it's you know, and it's something that happens in the books. So when you look at the source material, you know, the cost of violence is something that drives him.
And I know I said this a lot in the video, but I get this. This is a bold and brave way to start a new Daredevil show. It's also intriguing, because once again, this has never really happened. If it was to say like Karen were to die, we have a general idea where the story would go, because of the comics. But since this never has happened to Foggy, we're kind of in the dark as to what's going to happen in the story. Another reason why Foggy's death could be effective is because it helps build Bullseye as a character. I mean, we already know how insane Bullseye is, and the way he acts throughout this whole scene is just perfect. Like him laughing, patting Matt on the shoulder is just amazing. This scene and sequence adds so much to his character. Now a lot of the show's viewers want to see Dex get destroyed. Bullseye doing this act makes the character more psychotic and more unlikable, which is exactly what you want to do with a character like Bullseye. Now, I know that we're only 2 episodes in, but the show starts with such a polarizing decision. Like, to kill like an almost universally beloved character like Foggy is bold and ballsy. If you agree or disagree with the decision, I recommend just sitting back and letting the full story play out. You could be proven right or wrong, just wait till the whole show is done. But if Foggy is still alive, this whole video becomes redundant.